Yep.
Okay. All right. So, welcome to the first 2015-2016 Big East season preview podcast. My name is Chris Novak, and I'm alongside my co-host and co-managing editor of Big East Bias, Robert Neal. And today's the start of 10-2 podcast that's starting here at BECB to get you ready for the 2015-2016 season, which is just 32 days away. So, before we get started here, there was some news that was dropped earlier today about Big East Media Day with regards to several Big East personalities who are going to be at the event. No real surprises as far as I could see based on the names that were thrown in there. You know, the usual suspects in terms of players that you might suspect. Chris Dunn's going to be there. Devonta Smith-Rivera. The villain for Xavier, I'm looking right now. James Barr will be there, as well as Rami Abell.
Yep.
Sort of surprised Trevon Blewett won't be there, but
yeah, but based on what we heard at the freshman fundamentals thing, how they tell the freshmen to kind of be short with the media, that might still apply to sophomores. They might just lean more towards having the upperclassmen there.
That's a pretty good guess. And of course, if you were not aware, we'll be having wall-to-wall coverage of Big East Media Day on the site. I'm going to be there, as well as one of our other writers who's a New York native, Andrew Paddock, who has been doing a good job with the Get to Know Your In-and-Coming Recruit profiles that we've been doing for much of the summer, the early fall, which we're still not complete on them, but we're doing our best to get those up before the start of the season.
I saw that Maurice Watson will be there too, so you better hope he doesn't try and throw him at you.
We had some fun with Mo Watson, former BU Terrier, now Creighton Blue Jay after transferring. Hopefully we smooth things out there with the new Creighton point guard. Speaking of Creighton, we'll be talking about them on our next podcast. That will be taking place on Friday because we'll obviously be unable to do this on Wednesday. I mean,
you could do one Wednesday and do Media Day. I mean, we'll see what time you get home Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, the event runs from about 9:30 to 1 o'clock, at least for the men's, and then there will be Women's Media Day afterwards. I will be home between 5 or 6 o'clock. Maybe we can squeeze it in Wednesday night. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. But this is about the time that we're going to be doing all 10 of these. Monday and Wednesday afternoons. You can watch it live. You can watch it when you get home from work. Whatever you want to do.
Yep, pretty much. So as we said, today is the start of our individual team podcasts, and our first one, as you can see from the link that was issued out earlier this morning, is about the Marquette Golden Eagles.
Yes.
Coached by Steve Wojciechowski in his second season in Milwaukee. The first year was a bit of a transition season. MU finishing the year at 13-19, last place in the Big East Conference at 4-14. They did win a conference tournament game over a what would be the best word to describe how Seton Hall finished the season last year?
Disgruntled.
Disgruntled. I wanted to say depleted, but that wouldn't make any sense.
I mean, they did lose Jaron Cena by then, but
they did. Let's go with disgruntled is the this year. And they took a loss to the Big East Conference tournament champions, the Villanova Wildcats.
Yeah. Like you said, it was a transitional year. I don't think Marquette was terrible last year. I mean, they had a lot of close games. Them and Creighton, they were the two worst teams technically in the conference, but they both played hard.
Yeah.
I hate to use that, but they did.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of their losses right now on their schedule for last year. As far as conference season, 3-point loss to DePaul, 6-point loss to Georgetown, 4-point loss to Xavier, 3-point loss to St. John's, a 10-point loss to Georgetown in overtime, 4-point loss to Butler in overtime. This, at least in the early part of the season, this team was not getting blown out at all.
No, and that's good going forward.
It definitely is, but unfortunately, they ran into a bit of a slump starting on February 10th. They took a 20-point loss to Xavier, and then lost by 11 to Villanova 2 games later. Lost by nearly 20 to Butler on the road at Hinkle Fieldhouse. Not exactly the easiest place to play. 11-point loss to Providence, and then a 16-point loss at home to St. John's.
Yep. Yeah, so a bit of a back and forth year, transitional. They didn't have a whole bunch to work with, but what they had worked all right for them. And this year, it's really a whole different team for the better.
Yeah, and I think that the one area that the team lacked last season was size. They had one player over 6'7", that being center Fisher. Now that's going to change a little bit because they're bringing in a possible lottery prospect in Rice Lake, Wisconsin's Henry Ellenson, who of course will also be at Big East Media Day on Wednesday.
Yep. Yeah. Again, I think they had the best recruiting class in the conference, and I don't know if it's particularly close. Villanova, Jalen Brunson, Tim Delaney, nice players, but top to bottom, I don't think Villanova's class was as good as Marquette's.
No, Marquette's recruiting class was far and away the best in the Big East. 1 5-star recruit, Ellenson. What was that you were saying?
I think 24/7 Sports had them top 10 in the country. They did at one point, I know, so they were at least in the top 20.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at the recruiting rankings right now with regards to the entire country. 24/7 composite rankings had Marquette at number 13 in the country.
Yeah, and that's the best, I would assume.
Yes, it was top in the Big East. After that, it was Georgetown, Villanova, St. John's, and Creighton.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. So, I mean, let's just talk about that. Let's just go right into their recruiting class right now.
Yeah, I mean the big fish in the pond that they caught was the local product in Henry Ellenson, 5-star recruit, second best recruit in Wisconsin. 6'10", 230, so he's going to be a terrific stretch for the Golden Eagles. And like I said, he's probably going to be a lottery prospect. I would be actually shocked if he stayed around Milwaukee for more than a season.
Well, I always thought there was a chance, but Anonymous Eagle pointed this out. His Twitter name is NBA, so he's thinking next level.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about playing the Bradley Center around NBA facilities already, so you have a taste of that life right off the bat.
Got some stat there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. As I was saying, playing in the Bradley Center, you have a taste of the NBA facilities right off the bat, so you know what it's going to be like.
Yeah, exactly. He'll, of course, be playing in the Verizon Center when Marquette gets to Georgetown. So
yep.
One other one, and of course, Marquette, which we'll discuss later and go over the schedule, they'll be playing at the Barclays Center, which is another NBA venue.
That's a big game. That's
a
huge game to talk about.
We'll spend some time talking about that one on this podcast for sure. That's going to be a fun one.
But even outside of Henry Ellenson, really nice class. Tracy Carter is a fine player who will fit in nicely, possibly starting at point guard.
I could see it, honestly.
Yeah.
I definitely could see the New Jersey product from Burlington, New Jersey, playing as the starting point guard for Marquette. But as Wojo said at Marquette Media Day, there's going to be pretty much a shuffle between who plays at the 1 this year.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's okay. I mean, like we realized when we were doing these point guard rankings the other day, it's a great conference for point guards. I mean, every team has a point guard that I would gladly take if I, was starting a college team.
I would definitely agree. Of course, that's made it a little bit more difficult for us to throw in point guards because we weren't sure, like, okay, who can we put in here because there's so many options that they have. And, of course, there was the confusement over who was going to be starting at point guard for Villanova. It's going to be Archie Yakno like last year. It's going to be Jalen Brunson. But, of course, we'll go more in depth about Villanova then. We have that podcast, the last season preview podcast that we have. We're going in order of standings from last year, of course.
Yes. But yeah, it's a great recruiting class. Wojo did a great job in his first full offseason to recruit. He kept local guys local. He kept guys away from Wisconsin, and coming off the years they had, that's important.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, especially so with Wisconsin making back-to-back Final Fours and as the national runner-up, it's very, very important to stay ahead of the curve of the team that you're pretty much battling. The state of Wisconsin for recruits. I mean, the Badgers have a big brand in that state. They just locked up an Under Armour deal, so it's going to be interesting to see how that goes on forward. But it's fair to say Wojo's leading the race right now.
I think another thing that'll be interesting to watch is if Marquette shows that they can get a guy like Ellenson to the NBA in a year. And, Marquette's not the best program to do that historically.
I mean, aside from Dwayne Wade is the one name I can think of, but I don't think he might have been a sophomore at that time. I need to look that up.
But see, if Wojo can do that and get a guy to an NBA in 1 year, who's to say he won't travel south and start trying to force his hand in Chicago a little bit, since Northwestern and DePaul and Illinois haven't been able to. And, hey, you want to stay close still and play in a big conference, and, you don't want to play at DePaul or Northwestern, come to Marquette.
I could see that as well. Another thing on Wade, he actually went to school all 4 years at MU. So, yeah, I definitely think that's definitely a strong possibility, especially if Ellenson does land in the lottery. You could feasibly see him trying to sort of dig deep down I-94 into the city of Chicago and the pool of recruits that they have there. You're like, hey, you can stay close to your family and you can watch how we worked with Henry Ellenson, and we can get you to the NBA within a year as well.
Yeah, exactly. So if he can keep the recruiting going, it goes without saying that they're going to be, a top-level program in the Big East going forward.
Oh, definitely. No, make no mistake about that. I mean, he's already got according to 24/7 Sports, he's already got a hard commit for next year in the form of Stevens Point, Wisconsin's Sam Hauser, a 4-star small forward, 6'6", 190, got that commit back in May. So, and he is right now the best recruit in the state of Wisconsin in the class of 2016.
Yeah. So, all right. So I guess we can look at some of the returning players now.
Yeah. Let's take a look at some of the returnees for the Golden Eagles. Those of which include a terrific freshman last year in Dwayne Wilson, who we originally thought was going to be playing the one.
Yeah.
At least as the starter.
Yeah.
But
that was the idea, but we got corrected. So, Dwayne Wilson had a great year last year as a freshman. I mean, if you can get a freshman to come in, give you 12 points a game, the turnovers are a little high, 1.8. That'll happen as a freshman. You hope he can build on that. I'm fine with that year from a freshman, especially when you have Matt Carlino out there, and he was really the focal point of the offense last year.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. It's definitely going to help big time to have Wilson come back. Sorry, my attention was slightly diverted to the AL playoffs right now. Carlos Correa just hit a 2-run homer, his second homer of the day. Astros are now 5-2 over the Kansas City Royals, defending AL champions.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep my mind off baseball till about 5:30. It doesn't work sitting around thinking about it all day.
Rob, of course, if you are unfamiliar, is a Cubs fan, so best of luck to him tonight.
Yeah, but Dwayne Wilson had a nice year. I don't think he would be the top scoring option in this. Well, I don't know. I don't love the whole scoring options term in basketball because, sure, you would love Henry Ellenson to score, 20 points a game, but he's not always going to be open. He's not always going to have a good matchup. He's still a freshman.
Yeah, he'll still have some room to grow. He might be very highly touted, but he's not going to be a complete finished product the minute that he steps on the hardwood. So,
but I guess my point is I could see Wilson's scoring maybe going down a little bit and his assists going up, even though he won't be playing point guard. But I would assume Marquette is going to look to feed it down low to either the 4 or the 5 in Ellenson and
Luke Fisher.
Yep,
I definitely can see that. Based upon solely usage rates, of course, Dwayne Wilson had the second highest of actually correct that statement. He actually had the highest usage rate of anyone on the Golden Eagles last year. Matt Carlino second. It was very slim. It was 24.5% for Wilson, 24.2% for Matt Carlino. Carlino, of course, took more shots and was more efficient from the field, but
yeah, like you said, size was a problem for them last year. They were in the bottom 60 in all teams in Division I in rebounding. That will change this year, you would have to imagine.
Yeah, their defensive rebounding percentage last year was a meager 36.4%. That was I shouldn't even say meager. That was actually extremely high. That ranked 339th in the country. 351 teams were observed last year in Division 1A by KenPom.com. So
you could take that number and you could look at the 2 or 3 possession games they lost and say, oh, hey, that makes a difference.
Yep, and defensively, this team was also strugglesome at defending the perimeter. They allowed 36% of three-point attempts to be converted, and teams had a three-point rate against them of 36.4%. So they were taking a lot of three-pointers, and they were making a lot of three-pointers as well.
Yeah. Another guy that I'm not sure got enough credit last year who was pretty good is Juwan Johnson, actually.
Yeah, Juwan Johnson, named for his dunk fail last year against Ohio State. That line got us a lot of views. I remember he actually redeemed himself shortly thereafter with an emphatic dunk against, I want to say St. John's.
Yeah, that sounds right. But yeah, I don't know if he got enough credit outside of the dunk fail.
Yeah, no. Golden was regarded for that last year. Juwan Johnson was a very significant contributor to this team. His steal percentage was one of the top and was one of the best in the country. His FC 40, which I believe is fouls created over 40. It's a stat that shows how many, or fouls committed over 40 minutes, I should say. So his fouls committed over 40 minutes was one of the best in the country as well, ranked 167th in the nation, which when you take into account how many players are playing college basketball, 167th is actually quite good.
Yeah.
He only committed two fouls for every 40 minutes that he was on the floor. So that's an excellent rating.
I will say though, one thing that does worry me getting back to the rebounding, they still only have 2 guys that are 6'10", or they have 3 guys that are 6'10" or taller, and you figure Luke Fisher and Henry Ellenson are going to be starting, so your only bench guy is Matt Help.
Yeah. I think Steve Taylor is going to help them out. He was the team's best rebounder by offensive and defensive rebounding percentage. He's going to be a senior this year, so he'll still be probably logging some minutes.
I don't know if Steve Taylor's there on this one.
I might be wrong. Let's see.
Yeah, no, he transferred. Now I remember.
Ah, yes, that's right. That's right. Well, that's
He transferred. Yeah, it was before it was right when the season ended. Yeah.
yeah. Now I remember that. Now he transferred to
Yeah, where did he go? Landing.
Oh, he went to Toledo.
Oh yeah,
That's right.
it's
Hustle Belt. Thank you.
stuff we should know, but it was off season, so
Yeah, that's my bad. I was mainly just looking at Kempon's roster sheet and saying,
no,
"Oh, this
yeah,
guy's
I
a junior.
forgot he transferred too, but
He's on our team."
you can have size issues and still be okay.
Yeah,
They're going to
I
be
definitely
fourth
think
level
that
for them last year, so that's the big thing.
yes. Sorry, you can complete your thought there. I was talking over you, so go for it.
So you got like a jackhammer going on out there.
Out here, yeah. There's a lot of construction outside my neighborhood. Very untimely at that. They've been doing this for like 2 straight weeks. It's annoying.
Anyway, let's project the starting five real quick.
All right.
I mean, for the sub, you know Dwayne Wilson's gonna be at the 2. You know Henry Ellison's gonna be at the 4, and you know Luke Fisher will be at the 5.
I'm gonna say Juwan Johnson at the 3. Well, the 3, and then Cheatham at the 1.
Yeah, I can make the argument for Tracy Carter, I guess, but
well, actually, yes, touche. Let's go with Carter.
Carter or Cheatham, you can go either way.
Yeah, we'll go with Carter for the sake of this. That's a pretty darn good lineup.
Well, yeah, and then you have some nice pieces on the bench. This team has a lot of guards. Yeah, and you can tell they're going to kind of play small again. And that's okay. I mean, if that's what Villanova's doing this year, it'll work for them.
Yeah, I mean, small ball isn't super frowned upon anymore.
I can't name, like a dominant big man in the conference right now. So, I mean, Sir Dominic Corner, but he's gone.
I'd say Daniel Chaffee, Villanova.
Good. Cam Woods is good. He's gone. So you can afford to play small within conference this year.
Yeah, I think some people might agree. Some people might disagree. We'll see how the season plays out. I definitely think that Ochefu probably is the best big man in the conference right now. Jalen Reynolds also comes to mind from Xavier, another kind of a raw player, but a pretty good defender last year for X. Who, of course, we'll go over a couple weeks. But yeah, so who do you think? Let's talk here about X factors. Who do you think is someone that maybe not a lot of people are talking about that can surprise a lot of people this year?
Well, I guess since I just said it, it would have to be Juwan Johnson. I mean, I liked what he did last year. I think he was a nice guy to have around. He's good on both sides of the ball, at least in terms of getting in the passing lanes, getting steals. He's not a great rebounder. He's 6'5", I think it's Juwan Johnson.
All right, you'll go with Johnson. I'll be different from you. I guess I'll just bring up either Matt Helt or Sakara Neem, sort of two players that maybe not a lot of people are talking about with regards to this recruiting class. Ellenson obviously has notoriety right now. Cheatham was also a very good pickup for them, as well as Tracy Carter. I think Helt and Aneem off the bench, depending on how many minutes they may or may not log, especially with Helt, with his size, standing at 6'10", according to 27 Sports, he can definitely be a welcomed addition to a team that needed length in the worst of ways last season.
Yeah. I do wish Andrew Rozzi was able to play this year, but that's just so I could make a ton of jokes about on-card. So.
Well, there's always 2016 for that.
Yeah. All right, are we going schedule now?
Let's delve right into schedule. I know I said my piece on Marquette's non-con schedule and their league schedule analysis. So I'll gladly bring up a few points that I had, but let's go with what you think here.
Belmont right off the bat, it's tough. Belmont's been a good team for the last 5 to 7 years. They've been one of those teams that you don't want to play. They were good last year offensively. They were very good last year offensively, actually. They weren't great defensively, so that game could be a bit of a back and forth shootout type.
It's definitely going to be a good test for them. As I mentioned in my shameless self-promotion here, of course, in my non-conference schedule analysis for the Golden Eagles, Belmont, you've mentioned like last few seasons, 10 of the 12 last seasons, they've amounted 20 or more wins and have hit the mark in 6 of 7 and won 30 games in 2010. So they're a terrific program out of the Ohio Valley Conference. It's going to be that game is going to be very, very intriguing from the standpoint of, okay, is Belmont going to give Marquette a run for their money? Is this Marquette team going to prove themselves worthy of some of the hype that might be circulating around the 4-1-4? Is it going to be a very easy match? I'm looking forward to this matchup. It's probably the most intriguing opening matchup out of any Big Ten team.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that offhand just because I'm not.
Yeah, just based on the ones I know off the top of my head, yeah, it definitely is. All right, then they play at home again against IUPUI. That'll be a win. And then this Iowa game is intriguing.
Oh, it's very intriguing.
One of the games that they actually got right in terms of level of teams.
Definitely. I mean, the Hawkeyes are a very fun team to watch. They were pretty good last year in the Big Ten. They have a bunch of returning players that were effective last season in their own right. This is probably the most under-the-radar, sneaky good matchups as far as the entire Gavitt games go, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think DePaul and Penn State will be a good matchup because it's even teams, but it's not going to be good basketball. It's just going to be good because they're both, not great. But this game actually has two teams that I would say are on the bubble coming into the year.
I think maybe, in my opinion at least, that Iowa might be a little further than the bubble. I think Marquette is and we'll talk about that when we talk about our season predictions at the end of this podcast.
I mean, I get that. The one thing about Iowa, though, Aaron White's gone. That's a lot of scoring you got to make up.
That's true. I am a fan of Peter Joke.
Yeah.
Who's probably one of their top returnees from last season.
But that's a game that Marquette might need to win, and that's something we'll probably touch on when we get to the end of the non-conference schedule here, because they don't play. Oh, yeah, there's a bug out here. They don't play a lot of talented teams in the non-conference.
They don't.
At the same time, after Iowa, they go to Brooklyn to play LSU in the. It's not the Legends Classic; it's the other one.
I think it is the Legends Classic. It's the Legends Classic. Thinking of Georgetown and the 2K Sports Classic at the Garden.
Yeah, so that one's in Brooklyn against LSU. LSU, I would assume, will be ranked at that point.
Maybe a safe bet. I mean, it's only a week or two into the polls, so.
I mean, I would put LSU in my preseason top 25 though, just because Ben Simmons is that good.
Oh yeah. Ben Simmons and Antonio Blakeney, they're going to take Baton Rouge. They're going to take Baton Rouge by storm.
Yeah, if you don't know about Ben Simmons, you will.
Yeah, you will, and you will very quickly.
And same with Antonio Blakeney, actually. Because they're two top 5 recruits. I believe Simmons was pretty much number 1 across the board in most.
Yep. Ben Simmons, 24/7 sports profile here. Okay, not Ben Simmons. pro-style quarterback. I don't know why that says that. It's weird. And it linked me to his basketball page. Wow, what are you doing, Google?
He was number 1 on ESPN, and Blakely was.
Yeah. Simmons was number 1 in the national composite rankings.
Pretty much, however you want to put it, you have 2 top 10, top 7, however you want to put it, recruits in this game in Simmons and Henry Ellison, and then you have another guy in Antonio Blakeney who is in the top 20. So this will be a fun game.
This will be a very fun game with 2 teams that may not be completely finished products in late November.
Yeah, but it's nice that they play each other then, because
exactly, yeah.
It's not like say when Butler played, North Carolina last year. North Carolina wasn't exactly all gelling yet, and Butler was able to get the win on them. Of course, Butler ended up being better than a lot of people thought, and they were already together because there's a lot of returning players. But sometimes you see a lot of players are not ready to go yet.
Exactly, and that's why whenever people will talk about Kentucky, they say, oh, they're going to have growing pains or whatever. Both these teams are definitely going to have some growing pains bringing in new talent into the fold, especially with LSU, with bringing in Simmons and Blakeney. But talent will eventually flash itself. It just depends on how much you get out of them in November.
So that'll be a good game. That's a game with the Big East team on ESPN. We always enjoy those. It's on ESPN too, but from the ESPN family.
Yes, definitely. It's a nice little throwback.
And then they play the winner of, I want to say, North Carolina State is one of the teams for sure, and Arizona State is the other one, I believe.
Bingo.
Yeah.
They play either ASU or North Carolina State.
Which, if you are Marquette and you want to have a chance to boost your resume, you are rooting for North Carolina State to do the same thing you do against LSU.
I agree. I think that you would definitely – well, obviously, you would hope for the win over LSU.
Yeah.
And North Carolina State, in my opinion at least, and likely shared by yours as well, is probably the better team between the Wolfpack and the Sun Devils going into this year.
I don't think it's close, really. I mean, just because Cat Barber's coming back even.
Exactly, yeah. I know ASU now has a new coach. I think there's more outlook from the positive standpoint in Tempe right now for the future than maybe the present for a team that just won 18 games last season.
Basically, Marquette needs to go 2-1 against Iowa, LSU, and then North Carolina State if they play. If they play Iowa, LSU, and Arizona State, they might need to go 3-0. It depends, though, because if you play Iowa and NC State, you can win both of those and lose to LSU and be okay. If you play Iowa, LSU, and Arizona State, well, then you probably can't afford to lose any of them.
Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know if 1 and 2 would necessarily hurt them in this stretch going down the road, because as long as it's to LSU and NC State, if those so happen to be their losses, by the end of the season, those might not be terrible losses.
I would assume it means that they would have an absolute must-win going into the Kohl Center then.
That is also true, and you may or may not want to have that happen.
We want to just get to that right now. I mean, after they get back from Brooklyn, it's home against Jackson State, Grambling State, Maine, San Jose State. Those are 4 wins.
Yeah, none of those teams. That was a recurring theme for my post there.
Yeah,
those teams were amongst the worst in the nation last season.
So,
but
Marquette going to Madison, Wisconsin, not what they were last year. Marquette's not what they were last year.
Certainly not, but I definitely think Wisconsin's definitely going to have the best player on the floor, though. Nigel Hayes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I figured that's who you were talking about, but yeah.
Yeah. The Badgers will definitely have the advantage in that department, as well as their terrific home court advantage that they've built up over God knows how long. Pretty much since Bo Ryan's been there. I mean, they seldom lose in the Kohl Center, except for when Duke went in there last year and shot lights out against them. I still can't believe that ridiculous performance that happened last year.
Yeah. So that's a good game. I mean, it's always a big game. I don't know if people outside of Wisconsin understand how big of a game it is, but it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a very big deal in America's Dairyland, I would have to wager. I'm avoiding calling it the Badger State just to not antagonize any Marquette fans that may or may not be listening to this podcast right now.
Yeah.
Just like I know how much it gets under the skin of Creighton readers when I have referred to Nebraska as the Husker State before. So I'm going to do my best to not antagonize this year. So prepared for a lot of bouncing around, maybe just calling it the Great Plains or just naming the state of Nebraska.
I will say if it's a battle of mascots, Wisconsin wins, and I will say that and take whatever heat you want to give me.
I have to agree, and I'll take whatever heat comes out of that as well. Bucky is awesome. Given the fact that I will likely be at the 2K Sports Classic in November, I am definitely looking forward to seeing Bucky there as well.
Gotta get a picture.
I mean, I might have to shamelessly do that. Yeah, we'll see what happens there.
But after Wisconsin, they play Presbyterian and Chicago State. So it's, again, not a great non-conference schedule.
It's very top-heavy.
Yeah.
It's very top-heavy. I would say in the upper tier, it's LSU, NC State, and then Wisconsin, and then deck down, probably say Iowa.
Yep.
Go down another tier and say Arizona State and Belmont. Arizona State there, maybe just for namesake.
Yeah.
And because I don't think they're going to be worse than they were last year. Well, and then you have everything else.
If you want to include Arizona State, they might aid you down the road with a Pac-12 win or two against someone like, Arizona or Oregon. So I guess if you're a big believer in RPI and all that, it could help.
Yeah, you can believe in RPI or whatever, but let's just get this out of the way. I am not a big believer in BPI. I'm not a big believer in FPI for football. So whatever stats ESPN's trotting out, I'm personally just not a fan.
No.
I'm sorry if that doesn't go over well with any of our teams here, but
12 non-conference games.
Don't forget, and I oversaw this before. They have a matchup during the Big East season against Stetson on January 27th.
So
it's their other non-conference game.
So I would call that a victory. But
yes, I would as well.
That aren't. Oh no, actually, hold on. Belmont, I'm not gonna declare a victory right now. So
that's fair.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then Wisconsin, Iowa, Belmont, LSU, and NC State, Arizona State still in play. So if you have 8 wins, I guess you can afford to maybe go 2-2 and go 10-2 in conference or non-conference.
Yeah. So let's see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, technically 13 non-conference, but before the Big East season starts, they play 12.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, 10-2, that's not the – and I guess you could just say 11-2 for the sake of it. 11-2 in non-conference play.
For LSU and Wisconsin, say?
There's not much wrong there.
No, I mean, even LSU, NC State, and Wisconsin, you'd like to win one of those just to show that, hey, we're here. But
exactly, yeah.
There will be an adjustment. There'll be growing pains with this team. I mean, Henry Ellenson's not going to come out and, drop 25 points a night.
Not automatically, no. I don't.
But that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into what I predicted for them in the conference season. So if we say they go 11-2 in non-conference, I gave them 11 wins in conference, so they would end up with 22 wins on the season. Yeah, just team bubble watch.
You need a couple conference tournament wins or something then.
Yep, might need to win a game or two in the conference tournament.
I'm gonna hate doing conference projections for teams that aren't DePaul and St. John's because because I think you have Butler, not in order, but Butler, Villanova, Georgetown, Xavier. Then you have this second tier of Marquette, Creighton, Providence. I guess Seton Hall, I'm higher on them than most people. And then you have the lower tier of DePaul and St. John. So I would say that the Big East could probably send 6 of those 8 teams I mentioned to the tournament again.
Yeah, I definitely think 6 is the max that they could send.
So it's just tough. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a hard year. The conference has a lot of teams that are very similar to each other.
Sorry for the facial reactions here. Kansas City just tied it up in the 8th inning. They had the bases loaded with no outs. So there's trouble afoot in Houston right now.
Yeah, I mean.
Anyways, yeah, back to what you were saying. Yeah, six is. I think 6 is the max that they could send. By some ungodly chance that another team steps up, 7 maybe, but I highly doubt that, given the landscape of the conference, how each team's non-con schedule is right now, and how the teams are pretty much just going to beat up on each other. I don't know if this is like the Big 12 where you could feasibly get 8 really, really talented and good teams into the conference like they did maybe a few years ago.
Yeah. So I think for right now we'll put them in the 20 to 22 range.
20 to 22 wins. That's a pretty good season, given the fact that they were way shy of the 500 mark last year.
After winning 13 games.
Yeah, I mean that would be a very successful season. So we're gonna slot Marquette with 20 to 22 wins, and I guess we'll say that they're on the bubble in the NCAA tournament.
All right. I guess we'll go to questions real quick here.
Yep. Let's take them.
I know our friend Brewtown Andy wants to know if they'll be in the tournament or not.
Well,
I think we just kind of went over that.
Their resume certainly gives it a chance. It really just depends on how the rest of the nation shakes itself out.
Villanova, Georgetown, Butler, Xavier in for sure. And then max 2 of Providence, Creighton, Marquette. I take Seton Hall off because I don't think they have the pieces.
I would definitely, in my opinion, if you're going to shake it out that way, I'd say there is no chance in hell that Providence does not make the tournament this year with Chris Dunn. No way.
Okay, so it's going to come down to Marquette or Creighton, and that's about what I was thinking all offseason. I like what both of them did. And it might just end up coming down to who wins more Big East tournament games. I mean, if they matched up against each other, that would be counterproductive for both, really.
Now, here's an interesting question. We're going to talk about Creighton here, and since we're going to talk about Creighton next as well, and if we're going to say, it's going to come down to those two. Creighton plays Arizona State at home.
Right.
Okay. And they're also going to be going to Oklahoma, and they're also going to Indiana. So my question is, if it comes down to it in this non-con slate that they have, because in the Men Who Speak Up main event in Las Vegas, I don't know if that was a thing. That's interesting. That's an interesting name for an event. Let's say Creighton plays Massachusetts, Indiana, and will play, as opposed to Clemson, with regards to Clemson or Massachusetts. They play the winner of that matchup. Let's say they play as their four big non-conference games: Indiana, Massachusetts, Arizona State, and Oklahoma. No disrespect to Nebraska.
Yep.
What 2-2, since we have four big non-conference games for Marquette, four big non-conference games for Creighton, which 2-2 gets either team in?
I would say losing at Indiana and at Oklahoma is a better loss to take than a neutral site against LSU I don't know, because it depends. Because Creighton or Marquette's 2-2 could end up being, they lost to LSU, but they were still able to beat NC State. So it's when you're not guaranteed Marquette's second opponent there,
Yeah, and technically Creighton's not guaranteed UMass either. So.
Yeah, but I mean, I think automatically, no matter who Creighton plays in the tournament, their two losses would be at Indiana and at Oklahoma. So I'm not even really.
Yeah.
It's something I would have to think about. I mean, this is where it gets tough sometimes.
Yeah, because I think that just simply because Creighton's going to Bloomington and to Norman, their non-conference schedule might be a little bit tougher. So that might actually help them in the end if we're going to flip-flop between the two.
Mm-hmm. But we'll talk about Creighton next time.
Mm-hmm. Whenever that may be, whether it's Wednesday or Friday.
I would like to do something Wednesday, even if it's just media day, impressions.
Yeah, we could definitely do a podcast on Wednesday based off of media impressions and what the gist of it is. I could probably swing Andrew on here as well, so if he's able to.
All right, let's get back to the questions here. We did X Factor. Is Henry Ellenson a big of deal as we're making him out to be in Milwaukee? Yes.
Yes.
I think more national people should make him out to be a big deal. I think a lot of the national attention in the Big East has gone to Jalen Brunson.
And deservedly so.
No, absolutely. They're two different players. They play different styles. They play different positions. But as far as who are you going to be seeing in the NBA next year, it's not Jalen Brunson.
Exactly. Brunson's probably going to play a little bit longer in southeastern Pennsylvania than Henry Ellenson will be playing in southeastern Wisconsin.
Which, if Brunson does stay another year like we think he's gonna, and the Big East has to face Brunson and Omari Spellman next season, have fun.
I mean, it's hard enough right now to face Nova, but that, damn.
Let's see, we got another question here from Anonymous Eagle. More likely to have their name spelled wrong most this season, Tracy Carter or Hanif Cheatham? I'm going to go Cheatham because I have to look his name up every time. Tracy Carter, I figured out, is an I, and Carter's an easy name.
With that said, there might be a lot of people that confuse that I with a Y.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you don't see it that way often.
But I do agree with you. I think Cheatham's name will be more commonly misspelled this year.
I mean, I know how to spell Wojo's name, too. So.
Yeah, I did. I quickly learned how to spell Wojciechowski's last
name. No, but...
No, I couldn't spell Wojciechowski even if it brought me to Wojciechowskiville right in front of that sign.
Yeah. Well, I think we're out of questions, but... What else do you want to talk about here?
We pretty much covered everything. I think with regards to the podcast now we did them last year, this was pretty much the format. We spent a few minutes talking about how they did last year, what their strengths and weaknesses were, talking about the recruiting class, non-con breakdown, conference breakdown, tournament chances, answering questions, I should say. So we pretty much did the full lap here. So.
If you are a visiting fan watching this and you're going to Marquette this year, make sure you get yourself some Kopp's frozen custard. And a burger. They got good burgers. it's about all I can offer from Milwaukee. I haven't really been there outside of Brewers games that often, so.
What was that one bar we went to after the Brewers game last summer?
Like across the freeway from Miller Park. It was a nice little typical Wisconsin dive bar.
It was a nice place.
But yeah, no, it was nice. So if you do end up going to Milwaukee, you need somewhere to eat, we can help you. Anonymous Eagle can help you.
We certainly know a few Wisconsin Twitter files as well.
Yeah.
Can assist.
I think we're about done here, though. We will likely, maybe, possibly see you Wednesday, but it'll be at night instead of in the afternoon, which I know goes against what I said to open this.
Right, and of course, we'll see what happens with the Cubs playoff schedule when they're playing. So
well, that'll be Thursday, so we are good to go.
Yep.
And then next Monday, it should be around this time. I will be flying back from Chicago Monday morning, so as long as everything goes well with that, I should be around by about 2 or 2:30.
Yep. So same time, same place next week. Same time at this time on Friday, possibly even earlier.
Are we doing 3 a week, or are we just doing mailbags on Friday?
Well, I already technically said that we were going to be doing Fridays.
This week, because I didn't know. I thought you said that because you don't know what Wednesday is going to be. So.
Well, yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. So if we are able to do a podcast on Wednesday,
yeah,
and that'll mostly be Big East Media Day related.
Yeah, I don't want to do Big East Media Day and Creighton at the same time because
that would be way too long.
2 hours then.
Okay, so
want us for 2 hours? I wouldn't even want 2 hours.
No chance. Okay, so here's the breakdown, Big East Coast Bias readers and viewers. If we are able to do a podcast on Wednesday, it will be about Big East Media Day and the impressions that I got and Andrew got, and we'll talk about whatever else needs to be talked about. It'll be probably a pretty quick one, to be honest, and we may ramble on for an hour like we did with this one.
Yeah.
And Friday, then we will see about a Seton Hall podcast. We may have one of our. I'm sorry.
Great.
Sorry, I got mixed up because I remember that one of our Seton Hall writers will be joining us for our Seton Hall podcast when we do that. So that'll be fun. But in the future, this will likely be a 2-day-a-week thing leading up to the start of the Big East season.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, that'll about do it.
Yep. For Rob, I'm Chris. Hope you enjoyed listening to us talk about Marquette, and we'll hopefully be back Wednesday. If not, we'll see you Friday.
Go Cubs. Go Mets.
Go Falcons.
Yes.